special JCN program on Bahamian Nation Builders is being brought to you by the following sponsors: Doctors Hospital, Higgs and Johnson, Calendars & Co. Counsel and Attorneys, Dan Brad Limited, Superwash, Higgs & Kelly, Commonwealth Drugs, Pharmachem Technologies, the Dalbinus Agency Limited, Sun Oil Limited, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Rocky Farms Nursery, and Milo Butler & Sons.
Dr. Cecil Bethel's contributions to the growth and development of the medical profession are legendary. A trailblazer, Dr. Bethel was the first Bahamian to graduate from the University of the West Indies, London, in 1957, and the first medical chief of staff of the Princess Margaret Hospital, serving from 1968 to 1972. For 30 years, Dr. Bethel served in the Bahamas government, ascending to the posts of senior consultant physician and head of the Department of Medicine, positions he held up to his retirement from the public service in 1988 when he entered private practice. As one who exemplified the highest standard of medical practice and ethical principles for physicians to follow, he received numerous accolades during his lifetime. He was made a member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, MBE, by Her Majesty the Queen in 1989. Less than a decade later, in 1998, Dr. Bethel was bestowed the Bahamas Silver Jubilee Award and the University of the West Indies Distinguished Graduate Award. In 2001, the UWI honored him with its Medical Alumni Award. Respected for the quality of care he provided to patients and his vast knowledge, Dr. Bethel was involved in various organizations and associations. He was the charter president of the Medical Association of the Bahamas, a trustee of Sir Victor Sassoon Heart Foundation, and a founding member of the Bahamas Kidney Foundation. Dr. Bethel was married to his wife, Erla Bethel, for 38 years, and they had 2 children. Mr. Barry Racine was born in 1947 in London, England, but moved to the Bahamas when he was only 3 weeks old. His father, the late Mayor Racine, was the first surgeon in the Bahamas, who later built a hospital to take care of his own patients. Barry Racine achieved a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Miami, and then an MBA in Health and Hospital Administration from the University of Florida. He was employed at Mount Sinai Medical Center in Miami Beach for 5 years, working his way up from a resident to an assistant director of the hospital. Mr. Racine also worked at American Medical Corps Hospital Corporation, where he served as administrator, working with 5 hospitals until he was promoted administrator of Doctors Hospital in Hollywood, Florida in 1978. In 1979, Barry Racine moved back to the Bahamas to continue the evolution of the facility that his father had built. Along with 4 key physicians, he planned the purchase of the Racine Hospital. The purchase took place in December 1986 with 24 physicians. The hospital was renamed Doctors Hospital. Mr. Racine has focused on modern management with involvement in training and motivational practices. He has served as administrator, managing director, chief executive officer, and president of Doctors Hospital. He currently serves as a director and advisor to the board of directors. He is a member of the Rotary Club of East Nassau and is currently president of Rotary International. Alfred Francis Adderley was born in Nassau on November 16, 1891. He attended Boys Central School in Nassau and the Nassau Grammar School. In 1908, he attended Denstone College, followed by St. Catherine's College and Cambridge University in England. A member of the Middle Temple, he was called to the English Bar in May 1919 and to the Bahamas Bar in August of 1919. He was a member of the House of Assembly for Eleuthera from 1923 to 1925 and for the Western District in Nassau from 1928 to 1938. He was appointed to the Legislative Council in 1938 and to the Executive Council in 1946. In the King's Birthday Honours of 1951, he was appointed a Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. He was married to the late Ethel Lunn, and he fathered two sons, the late Dr. Francis E. Adderley and the late Honorable Paul L. Adderley. A.F. Adderley was also the chairman of the Electrical Board and the Airports Board and was a member of the Civil Service Committee. He was Chancellor of the Anglican Diocese of Nassau and member of the Vestry of St. Mary's Church and a member of the Board of Governors of St. John's College. Mr. Alfred F. Adderley died on 16th June 1953. A.F. Adderley Senior High School was named in his honor. Wilfred Parliament Adderley was born on February 28, 1868 in Nassau, and he was the first in what would become a line of distinguished parliamentarians. In the days of citrus exports, Wilfred Adderley was one of the biggest growers and exporters on the island of New Providence. A member of the House of Assembly for 35 years, he was the member of the House of Assembly for the Southern District for 18 years. Then he won the Andros seat in 1921. Upon his retirement in 1935, he was awarded the honor of Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Mr. Adderley was also a Senior Justice of the Peace for the Bahama Islands and served on most of the public boards in New Providence. In his time, Wilfred Adderley was looked upon as one of the leaders of the community. He was the father of A.F. Adderley and grandfather of Paul L. Adderley and Francis Adderley. Robert M. Bailey was born in Barbados on the 28th October 1875. A finished carpenter by profession, he received his primary and secondary education in Barbados. Having excelled as a student, he was awarded a scholarship to study law. Instead, Robert Bailey enrolled in Codrington College, Barbados, where he studied the classics, including Greek, Latin, and music. Mr. Bailey moved to New Providence in the Bahamas at the age of 24. He never returned to the island of his birth. Mr. Bailey worked as a tailor, sewing for many dignitaries. His major concern was education. Therefore, R.M. Bailey used his influence with members of the House of Assembly to lobby for a school operated by the government. It was a high school. It was a difficult task, but Mr. Bailey dreamt of Government High School, and that dream was fulfilled in 1925. R.M. Bailey was an active member of Christ Church Cathedral. However, he later joined Bethel Baptist Church, where he assisted in educational and musical programs. This dynamic public speaker became a trustee of the church and a choir director. He held many public meetings at Bethel to inform the working classes of the issues of the day. Mr. Bailey returned to the Anglican Church in 1948 at the age of 73. He remained a faithful member of Christ Church Cathedral until his death on the 24th June 1960. The R.M. Bailey Senior High School is named in his honor. Clarence A. Bain was born at Love Hill, Andros in 1904. He received formal education at the Calabash Bay Public School. After migrating to the United States and settling in New York City, he availed himself to adult education classes. While living in America, he was exposed to the civil rights movement and gained a deep appreciation for the rights of men and women to be free. Mr. Bain returned to the Bahamas in 1954, having spent 36 years in the United States of America. As a member of the Progressive Liberal Party, Clarence Bain contested the 1956 general election, along with Cyril Stevenson for Andros. Both Bain and Stevenson were successful. Clarence Bain was known for his oratorical skills. He was appointed a member of the first Progressive Liberal Party cabinet in 1967 as Minister without Portfolio. Mr. Bain represented the Andros district from 1956 to 1971. He received the honor of Commander of the British Empire for Public Service in 1971. Clarence A. Bain passed away on 14th July 1971. The government of the Bahamas dedicated the Clarence A. Bain Building in honor of this political giant. A leader in scholarship and education in the Bahamas, Rodney Ezekiel Bain was born on the 5th of February 1920 in Mastic Point, Andros. His career spanned over 5 decades, focusing on the improvement of the Bahamian educational system. Mr. Bain obtained his secondary education at the Government High School. In 1931, he was appointed monitor of the Mastic Point Public Schools. He obtained bachelor's and master's degrees in education from London University. He served as a supervisory head teacher, inspector of schools, education officer, and deputy director of education. In 1966, he was promoted to director of education. He was promoted to the position of permanent secretary in 1967. He was lauded as the first Bahamian director of education and the first Bahamian permanent secretary in education. In 1968, he was transferred to the cabinet office in 1971, became secretary to the cabinet, another first for any Bahamian. In June 1977, Rodney Bain was made a companion of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael's and St. George by Her Majesty the Queen. Mr. Bain passed away on October 20th, 1980. On the 15th of February, 1990, the Rodney E. Bain Building, located on Shirley and Parliament Streets, was named in his honor. Known as the private tutor to the leaders of the nation, Mr. Cecil Valentine Bethel was born on the 14th of July, 1904. He grew up in Nassau and attended the Nassau Grammar School and Catholic schools. Even though he left school at the age of 14, he received private tutoring. He went on to become one of the leading tailors in the Bahamas. In 1924, Mr. Bethel earned a place at Codrington College, obtaining a degree in the classics. He returned to Nassau in 1927. Even though he re-engaged in tailoring, he also became a private tutor for many prominent Bahamians, including Sir Kendall Isaacs, Sir Lyndon Pindling, Sir Randall Fox, Dr. Earl Farrington, and the Honorable Paul Adderley. He operated the St. Cyprian School, which he had co-founded with Mr. H.O. Nash. Mr. Bethel was fluent in Spanish, French, and Italian. In 1941, C.V. Bethel assumed the position of master at the Government High School. He made history in 1964 when he became the first Bahamian headmaster of that school. Mr. Bethel retired from Government High School in 1967, but proceeded to do volunteer teaching at St. John's College and St. Matthew's Day School. Mr. Bethel was a former president of the Bahamas Amateur Athletic Association and a member of the Bahamas Public Service Commission. In In 1967, he was made an Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. In 1996, he was awarded the Bahamas Order of Merit for a long-time contribution to the education of Bahamians. In 1998, the C.V. Bethel High School was named in his honor. Mr. Bethel died on the 16th of August, 1999. Mr. E. Clement Bethel was born on the 11th of February, 1938. He began his career as a concert pianist, having studied in Nassau and at the Royal Academy of Music in London. He received various certificates in piano, performing as well as teaching. Mr. Bethel taught at the Highbury High School before going to the University of California to write his master's thesis entitled Music in the Bahamas, Its Roots, Development, and Personality. On his return to Nassau, Mr. Bethel became Director of Culture at the Ministry of Education. He was married to Dr. Keva Bethel, former President of the College of the Bahamas. He was the founder and director of the Renaissance Singers and the first president of the Bahamas Music Society. Clement Bethel choreographed the Olympic Cultural Presentation in Mexico City in 1968. He also composed most of the music for the folklore for the eve of the Bahamas' first independence ceremony at Clifford Park on the 9th of July, 1973. A noted composer, Clement Bethel was the recipient of many awards. He tirelessly pursued the interests in Bahamian culture until his death on the 24th of August, 1987. Dr. Keva Bethel was born in Nassau on the 18th of August, 1935. Dr. Bethel received her early education at Dillett's School and Queen's College. She pursued university training in the United Kingdom and Canada, earning a PhD in Educational Administration from the University of Alberta. Her contribution to education in the Bahamas has been acknowledged for many years. Dr. Bethel's professional career began in 1959 as assistant mistress in Spanish and French at the Government High School. From 1966 to 1972, she was head of the Modern Languages Department. From 1972 to 1975, Dr. Bethel served as head mistress of Government High. In 1975, she was named chairman of the Humanities Division of the College of the Bahamas. She became Dean of Academic Affairs in 1977. She became principal of the college in July 1982. In July 1995, Dr. Bethel was appointed the fourth president of the College of the Bahamas, a position she held until her retirement in 1998. Dr. Bethel was married to cultural icon, the late Clement E. Bethel. Keva Bethel died on the 15th of February, 2017. Hilda V. Bowen played a major role in the structuring of the nursing service in the Bahamas. Ms. Bowen was the first Bahamian-trained nurse in the United Kingdom between 1946 and 1953, qualifying with a degree in nursing and midwifery and with a specialization in ophthalmology. Ms. Bowen was appointed the first Bahamian matron of the hospital in 1962. 3 years later, she was appointed Chief Nursing Officer, the top nursing post in the Ministry of Health. At that time, she assumed responsibility for the coordination of all nursing services in the Bahamas, including the Family Islands. Besides nursing, Ms. Bowen was an active member of St. Francis Xavier's Cathedral. She was active in the women's suffrage movement and was one of the pioneers of the Community Development Committee with the late Clarence Bain. She was also recognized for her outstanding contributions to the Bahamas Red Cross. In 1969, Hilda Bowen was honored as a member of the Order of the British Empire for contributions to nursing services and nursing education in the Bahamas. Ms. Bowen passed away in 2002 at the age of 78. Alvin Brennan was born on the 6th of December 1904 at the current Eleuthera. He received his early education at the public school at the current and Boys Central School in New Providence. Mr. Brennan was elected to the House of Assembly in 1939 and was a member of the legislature for 35 years. While serving in Parliament, he was a member of the Executive Council from 1953 to 1958, Deputy Speaker, and again from 1963 to 1966, and Speaker from 1967 to 1972. He also served on several public boards, including Education, Agriculture, Health, Tourism, and the Outer Island Development Board. Sir Alvin Brennan attended the constitutional conferences of 1963 and 1969 in London, England. His experience as a speaker and deputy speaker positioned him to become chairman of the Standing Committee of the Conference of Commonwealth Caribbean Parliaments. It is noted that Mr. Brennan played a pivotal role in ushering in the era of majority rule, voting with the Progressive Liberal Party to form the first black government in the Bahamas. He was appointed the first High Commissioner of an independent Bahamas to the Court of St. James in London. Sir Alvin Brennan died on October 9th, 1992 at the age of 87. Harcourt Whitfield Brown was born on the 28th of May, 1910 in Allistown, Eleuthera. Brown was ordained in the United States in 1938 at the end of his studies at the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee. After his graduation and ordination, he returned to the Bahamas in September 1938 and assisted Reverend A.C. Simonet at St. James Baptist Church. Reverend Brown was called to the pastorate of Bethel Baptist Church, the oldest Baptist church in the Bahamas, on the 4th of February 1939. During his pastorate, the membership of Bethel grew from 100 to 2,000. His theme, serving the whole man, inspired and drew many to his ministry. In 1956, he was made a Justice of the Peace. A fiery pulpiteer, Dr. H.W. Brown was outspoken on the political issues of the 1950s and 1960s. He was the sole pastor to accompany the Progressive Liberal Party-led delegation to the United Nations to protest racial conditions and electoral inequalities in the Bahamas. In 1967, when the PLP became government of the Bahamas, Dr. Brown was appointed chaplain of the House of Assembly. He was also one of the founding members of the Bahamas Christian Council. Reverend Dr. H.W. Brown died on the 11th of April, 1979. Gerald C. Cash was born in Nassau, the Bahamas, on the 28th of May, 1917. He was a graduate of the Government High School in Nassau and the Society of the Middle Temple, London, England. He was called to the Bahamas Bar as a counsel and attorney on October 25, 1940, and practiced until 1945, when he went to London to read law at the Society of Middle Temple. He was called to the English bar as a barrister at law on November 19, 1948. He returned to Nassau in December of 1948 and again went into private practice. In May 1949, Sir Gerald was elected to the House of Assembly as the senior representative for the Western District of New Providence. He was elected as junior representative for the same district in 1956, serving as a member of Parliament for 14 years. From 1958 to 1962, he was a member of Her Majesty's Executive Council. He served as a member of the Senate from 1969 to 1979. He was Vice President of the Senate from 1970 to 1972. He was appointed President of the Senate in 1972 and continued until 1973. He was appointed Acting Governor General in 1976 and was appointed Governor General on September 29, 1979. On October 20th, 1977, he was made Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael's and St. George. He was awarded the Silver Medal of the Olympic Order in 1983, and in October of 1985, he was knighted Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. Sir Gerald retired as Governor General on the 25th of June, 1988. The Flamingo Gardens Primary School was formally renamed in his honor in March of 1996. Sir Gerald Cash died on the 6th of January 2003. Harold George Christie was born in Nassau on the 30th of May 1896. Affectionately known as H.G., he was the founder and father of the real estate business in the Bahamas and founder of the Bahamas Real Estate Association. After serving in the Royal Canadian Air Force in World War I, Christie returned to Nassau and opened the first real estate company, H.G. Christie Real Estate. He was instrumental in bringing most of the major investors to these shores. Such investors included Sir Harry Oakes and E.P. Taylor. In 1935, to enhance island development, Mr. Christie created and owned Bahamas Airways. He sold the airline to British Airways following World War II so that its services could be expanded. Mr. Christie was a visionary land developer and was responsible for nearly all of the resort development that took place during his 51 years in business. In politics from 1927 to 1966, Mr. Christie was a member of the House of Assembly for Abaco and Cat Island. He served on the Executive Council from 1939 to 1949. He was made a Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire and headed the Bahamas Development Board for many years. In 1964, he was knighted for outstanding service in the development of the Bahamas. In 1972, he received the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce Distinguished Citizens Award for Business. Sir Harold G. Christie died in 1973 while on a promotional trip in Germany. Percy Edward Christie was born in Nassau on the 7th of August 1901. In 1935, he was elected to the House of Assembly, where he played a strong role for 14 years, representing the Western District. He championed the cause of the working man and assisted in obtaining the first minimum wage law. During the Burma Road riot in 1942, Mr. Christie negotiated wage increases for the laborers and those working at the air base at Oaks Field. Percy Christie was also responsible for the law which provides payment for jury duty. Prior to this, jurors served without compensation. He also headed the licensing authority and greatly curbed the granting of liquor licenses. The first neighborhood park, Christie Park, on Nassau Street, was created by him and named in his honor. Mr. Christie, along with the Reverend Prince Hepburn, founded the Bahamas Star Charity Guide number 35, which provided summer camps for underprivileged children, first at Whale Key and now at James Siston, Eleuthera. Mr. Percy E. Christie died on the 19th of February, 1982, at the age of 80. The Reverend Dr. Reuben E. Cooper Sr. was a scholar and a theologian extraordinaire and a social reformer. He loved his Baptist faith and his country and served faithfully for 40 years. Born on the 1st of November 1913 in Georgetown, Exuma, Dr. Cooper received his early education at the government school in Georgetown before migrating to New Providence to continue his studies, passing General Certificate of Education from the University of London at the A level. Fully convinced that God had called him into the Christian ministry, R.E. Cooper studied under the late Reverend Enoch Backford and traveled to the United States to attend seminary. He was ordained at the Spruce Street Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee on the 22nd of May, 1939. Several days later, he graduated from the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee. He furthered his education at the Fisk University Ministers School, and in 1966, he received the Honorary Doctor of Divinity degree from the Florida Theological Seminary in Lakeland, Florida. On returning home after graduation, Dr. Cooper organized the Mission Baptist Church, which came into existence on the 29th of December 1940. He was very involved in Baptist leadership in the Bahamas and served as principal of Jordan Memorial Baptist School. In the 60s, Dr. Cooper also organized the Prince William's Baptist High School, which was located on the same campus as Jordan Memorial. A pioneer among seminary-trained ministers, the Reverend Dr. R.E. Cooper died on the 2nd of October, 1980. Sir Clifford Darling was a committed and industrious citizen throughout his life, particularly in matters pertaining to the upliftment of the masses. Born on the 6th of February 1922 at Acklands Island, he attended the Acklands Public School and public schools in New Providence. In 1958, as head of the Bahamas Taxicab Union, it was Clifford Darling who led the general strike that brought grievances of the taxicab drivers into national focus. This event served as the catalyst for social and political change during the 1960s. Sir Clifford was a strong supporter of the Progressive Liberal Party from its inception, and in 1964 was appointed to the Senate. He was elected to the House of Assembly in 1967 and was successful in 6 consecutive elections for the Angliston constituency. Sir Clifford served as Deputy Speaker of the House and Chairman of the Tourism Advisory Board from 1967 to 1969. He was appointed Minister of State in 1969 and 2 years later became Minister of Labor and National Insurance. He was Speaker of the House of Assembly for 13 years, being elected in November of 1977. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II that same year. Sir Clifford resigned as Speaker of the House of Assembly in November 1990. He was then appointed the 4th Governor General of the Bahamas on the 2nd of January 1992. He held that post until his retirement on the 3rd of January 1995. A stalwart councillor of the Progressive Liberal Party, Sir Clifford died on the 27th of December 2011. Etienne de Puech was born on the 16th of February 1899. He was the third child of the late Leon E. H. de Puech and his wife Harriet. He took over the editorial chair of the Tribune in 1919 after serving in the British West Indies Regiment on the eastern and western fronts of World War I. In 1949, he was made an Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire by King George VI in recognition for his services during World War II. In 1953, Sir Etienne was named Knight Commander of the Ancient Order of St. Gregory the Great by Pope Pius XII. In 1965, he was honored by Queen Elizabeth II as Knight Bachelor in recognition for his work in the fields of health, education, and charities. Sir Etienne was later invited to serve as a member of the Council of the Imperial Society of Knight Bachelors in London. Sir Etienne de Puech served in the House of Assembly for 24 years. He served on the Legislative Council for 4 years and in the Senate for 4 years, a total of 32 years in the legislature. His proudest achievement was on the night of January 23, 1956, when he stood on the floor of the House of Assembly and proposed legislation to ban racial discrimination in all public places in the Bahamas. Sir Etienne represented the press of the Bahamas at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in June of 1953. He received numerous press awards and was a journalist of international reputation. He was recognized in the Guinness Book of Records as one of the world's longest-serving editors. Sir Etienne died on August 23, 1991, at the age of 92. Eugene Aubrey Pyfrom de Puech was born on the 7th of December, 1912. He received his early education at St. Francis Xavier's Academy and Queen's College, Nassau. He received a Bachelor of Arts degree in English, Philosophy, and Political Science from St. John's University, Minnesota, where he also qualified for a diploma in education. He later attended the University of Toronto, and he also attended the University of London, where he received his LLB degree and became a barrister at law. Mr. de Puech was admitted to the English bar in 1948 and to the Bahamas bar on the 12th of January 1949. Mr. de Puech was a political independent and became a member of the House of Assembly for the Crooked Island District in 1950. He was appointed to the Executive Council in 1953. In 1957, he was the recipient of the award Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Eugene de Puech served as a member of the Immigration Board, the Civil Service Board, the Import and Export Authority, and the Bahamas Bar Council. Mr. de Puech was chairman of the Electrical Board and continued as chairman when it became the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. He was also given the title Honorable for Life in 1964 and was appointed a Queen's Counsel that same year. With constitutional advance, Mr. DePuch became Minister of Welfare in the first cabinet in 1964. He also acted as Premier on 4 occasions during the absence of the then Premier Sir Rowland Simonet. He served as leader of the opposition in the Senate following the change in government in 1967. Mr. DePuch served as legal advisor to the opposition during the Independence Conference in London in 1972. The Honorable Eugene DePuch died in 1981 at the age of 68. Vincent Yelverton D'Aguilar was born on the 25th of December 1932. He was educated at Queen's College and at Faraday House Engineering College, London, England. He attended Faraday House on a scholarship from the Bahamas Electricity Corporation, where he worked for 14 years as a distribution foreman and distribution operation and maintenance engineer before entering the private sector. In November 1968, Mr. D'Aguilar and his brother Adrian opened their first superwash location on Nassau and Meadow Streets. Hard work, attention to detail, and selection of great locations meant that Superwash was an instant success. The company has grown into the largest chain of self-service laundromats in New Providence with 10 locations. In 1979, the brothers purchased the Dolphin Hotel on West Bay Street and Nassau Street. And as a result, Vincent D'Aguilar served at various times as a director of the Bahamas Hotel Association, the Bahamas Hotel Employers Association, and the Nassau Paradise Island Promotion Board. Mr. D'Aguilar served on the boards of several companies, including J.S. Johnson, Commonwealth Bank, and Family Guardian. He also served as deputy chairman of BEC for 6 years. He was an active member of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce, serving as president on 2 occasions. The chamber honored him in 2000 as Business Person of the Year. In 2006, Mr. D'Aguilar was honored again with the Chamber's Lifetime Achievement Award. In July 1988, he was presented with a Bahamas Silver Jubilee Award in recognition of his outstanding contribution to national development in the area of business. An active member of the Rotary Club of Nassau since 1971, Mr. D'Aguilar was also a keen collector of Bahamian art. He was appointed founding co-chairman of the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, serving from 1995 to 1997. He was presented with the E. Clement Bethel Award for Art by the College of the Bahamas in 1997. Vincent D'Aguilar died on the 18th of February 2008 at the age of 75. The Right Reverend Michael Hartley Eldon was born in Nassau on the 8th of August 1931. He was educated at Queen's College, Nassau, St. Catherine's College, Cambridge, England, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in 1952 and a master's degree in 1955, as well as St. Stephen's House, Oxford, where he completed his theological training. In 1954, Bishop Eldon returned to the Bahamas and was made a deacon in Christ Church Cathedral. In 1955, he was ordained a priest. He also served as curate of St. Matthew's Church, with particular charge for St. Margaret's and St. George's Anglican churches. He was a master at St. John's College and was appointed parish priest for Grand Bahama in 1962. He served as a teacher, a probation officer, and was chairman of the Grand Bahama Christian Council. The Right Reverend Michael Eldon had the distinction of being the first Bahamian bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Nassau and the Bahamas, including the Turks and Caicos Islands. He was elected bishop suffragan in June of 1971 and was enthroned diocesan bishop in 1972. During his tenure in office, he ordained some 50 priests. He was instrumental in the establishment of 20 new congregations and confirmed over 20,000 people to the Anglican faith. In the Queen's New Year's honors of 1992, Bishop Eldon was named Companion of the Order of St. Michael's and St. George. In July 1996, he received the Bahamas Order of Merit. Bishop Eldon retired as Lord Bishop of Nassau in 1996 and served as Assistant Bishop of the Anglican Diocese until his death on the 7th of February 2011. In September 2005, the Freeport Anglican High School and Discovery Primary School was renamed the Bishop Michael Eldon School in his honor. Jerome B. Major was born on the 10th of April 1933 in the settlement of Roses, Long Island. He attended the Roses All-Age School and upon completion traveled to New Providence to seek employment. This was where he met Mr. Glenn Rogers, who took Jerome Major under his wings and molded him into becoming a successful entrepreneur. Mr. Major enrolled at the Bahamas School of Commerce, where he further honed his business skills. Shortly thereafter, he started his first food store in Coral Harbor. This business moved with the times, and as the hotel in Coral Harbor closed, he was forced to close as well. Being an astute entrepreneur, Mr. Major sought to open a new store in a different location. This led to the opening of the existing Centerville food store. This store became a pillar throughout the Centerville community. Jerome Major was well known for his excellent business acumen and generosity. He died on the 20th of November 2011 at the age of 78. The work of the late Colin E. Callender cannot be quantified by the cases he won or the battles he fought, but can only be summed up by the impact he had on the Bahamian legal profession and lives he touched over the years. Mr. Callender was the great-grandson of W.E.S. Callender QC, who founded the law firm Callender's and Company in 1903. Mr. Callender continued his family's legacy in the firm as the managing partner and partner responsible for both the Nassau and Lyford Key offices. Born in 1941, Colin Callender was educated in Somerset, England. He was admitted to the Bahamas Bar in July of 1962. Mr. Callender held membership in the International Bar Association, the Bahamas Bar Association, and was a fellow in the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. In October 2009, Mr. Callender was awarded the honor of appointment as Queen's Counsel, an achievement held by fewer than 1% of the nation's attorneys. His practice areas included commercial law and formation of bank and trust companies, commercial insolvency, and commercial litigation, and was considered among the nation's leading insolvency attorneys. He also served as chairman of the board of directors of the Nassau Guardian and was committed to the Bahamas National Trust and the Royal Nassau Sailing Club. Colin E. Callender died on December 6, 2015 at the age of 74. Mr. Godfrey Walter Higgs was born in Nassau on September 28, 1907. He was educated at Queen's College, Nassau, and Queen's College in Somerset, England. A lawyer by profession, Mr. Higgs was admitted to the Bahamas Bar in November 1929. He continued his legal studies in England and was called to the English bar by Inner Temple in 1933. In 1934, Mr. Higgs entered the House of Assembly as the representative for San Salvador and Rum Key. He served as Deputy Speaker of the House from 1937 to 1942 and also acted as Speaker. He became leader of the government in the House in 1942, resigning in 1945. After the resignation of Sir Stafford Sands as leader of the House in 1946, Mr. Higgs became leader again from 1946 to 1949. He was appointed to the Legislative Council in 1950, and when it became the Senate in 1962, he served as Vice President of the Senate. Upon his resignation in 1968, the governor conferred on him the title Honorable for Life. He was also made Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in 1960. An avid sportsman, Mr. Higgs competed in sailing in the 1952 Olympics. The Honorable Godfrey Higgs was well known for his successful defense of the Count Alfred de Moreny, who was accused of the murder of his father-in-law, Sir Harry Oakes, in 1943. The case attracted much international attention. In 1949, he formed the first Bahamian law partnership with Mr. Melvin Johnson under the name Higgs and Johnson. The firm remains one of the leading law firms in the country today. In January of 1980, the Bahamas Bar Association presented Mr. Higgs with a gold pin to mark his 50 years of law practice. The Honorable Godfrey W. Higgs died on the 4th of May, 1986.
JCN wishes to thank the following sponsors of this special Bahamian Nation Builders program: Doctors Hospital, Higgs and Johnson, Calendars & Co. Counsel and Attorneys, Dan Brad Limited, Superwash, Higgs & Kelly, Commonwealth Drugs, Pharmachem Technologies, the Dalbinus Agency Limited, Sun Oil Limited, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Rocky Farms Nursery, and Milo Butler & Sons.